Hello, I just wanted to kind of introduce this new segment that we've got going. We have a podcast that we're starting, and before you click off, I know everyone's doing a podcast, but hear me out. We have a lot of people in the area that have really unique stories that have not been shared yet, and we would like to go around and kind of talk to them about their cars, stories behind their cars, and put a spotlight on some builds and some people that we don't think have really had that happen to them yet. So with that being said, this is going to be the first installment of a little thing that we're going to call the ABS show. This is kind of a soft launch. I would love to hear your thoughts about what we could change, how we could improve. We'll be talking to a subscriber named Robert, who owns a DE5 Integra Type S. We had a really great time. He was super awesome. Let us come down and film his car and talk about the nuances between the DE5 and the DC2. We both drove each other's cars, so if you would love to see driving impressions of me driving his car and him driving my car, go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description, and if you become a member for $5, you can check it out. And obviously we love our support from our Patreon members. Huge thank you to all of our paid members and our unpaid members for that matter. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy it, and if you want to see more content like this, let us know. But until then, on with the video. Shockingly warm today.
I know.
I was wearing a jacket like 3 days ago. It was like 30 degrees.
It was. We had our heater on, and I was like, we're going to have to turn the AC on today. It's like disgustingly warm in comparison.
All right. We are here on location. Say your name and what you drive.
So, Robert, and this is my 2024 Acura Integra Type S.
And I'm Sam, and you've all seen my 1994 Acura, what once was an Integra. So Robert reached out actually initially and mentioned that he would really like to do a video with either one or both of our Integras, and I loved the idea. So we are here to kind of, one, get background on how you kind of came into ownership of your Type S and what you like and don't like about it, and then hopefully get you in my Integra and get some comparison and thoughts about how each of them drive and if it was worth getting a new one. I don't know.
And I would love to have you drive mine and
that would be great.
Get your feedback on it as well.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so just jumping into kind of looking at this. So I had wanted a Type R for the longest time, right? It was always kind of that
Which
forbidden
gen?
fruit. Well, man, that's tough. It was pre-FK8, right? I'd always seen them.
Okay.
And I was always like, oh man, but then once the FK8 finally came to the States, I was like, oh, I want it.
Yeah.
And there was multiple times where I was ready to go pull the trigger on it, and then something was like, no, be financially responsible, don't do it, save the money right now, right? So I wanted it, was like, okay, let's back burner it. I want to do things like get a house, do other things, right?
Responsible adult things.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sucks.
Then the FL5 came out, and I was like, man, I think that's the ticket, right? But again, still was being a little responsible. The MSRP, like you couldn't get them for MSRP.
Yeah,
right?
there was no chance.
There was that.
What was the markup? Like 50?
Wasn't quite 50, but a lot of it was like 15 all day, like on top of MSRP.
Yeah,
right.
It's crazy.
So, and you go to the dealerships and they wouldn't know what the car was. They didn't know what they're like getting, and they were just like, "Well, it's special. You can't test drive it." And I was like, okay,
"Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they went to test drive. They were like cash ready, and like dealerships would just be like, "No, you can't drive it." And it's like, "What am I gonna do?" Like,
yeah, it was like basically I had to have a friend that had it, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of was like, man, I would like to test drive this thing before I spend, $45,000 on it, right? Same thing with the GR Corolla. I was like, that came out around the same time. I was looking at that as well, but no test drives, right? Then they announced this. I waited a little bit longer. I was like, man, I like that. I have a bad back, so having heated seats is pretty clutch.
Yep.
And some of the other niceties that you get with this over the Type R. And I'll get into like some of those differences too. But so then I was looking at these, and they were selling at about MSRP, right? And I was like, man, maybe that's the ticket, because with that adjustment on the Type R, they were about the same price.
Okay.
And I was like, I can get all these extra features, right?
Yeah, and I would love to talk about that too, because this actually came up in casual conversation the other day. We were talking about like, okay, FL5 versus the new Integra Type S, like drivetrain, they're pretty similar, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like, what are you getting for, you know,
the
each
increase
platform?
in price?
Yeah, exactly.
So I could sit here and talk ad nauseum about it, right? But it's about the same platform. The only thing is this is tuned differently than the FL5. So the FL5 makes about 315 horsepower, and it definitely has a little bit of a torque curve in there, right? This has an additional 5 horsepower to compensate for the additional weight of the features and sound deadening, right? But it's a super linear torque curve.
Okay.
There's no boost hit. It's just flat all the way through. So it's much better for dailying, right? Now the Type R, definitely more track focused, right? There's much more bolstering to the seats, so it definitely holds you in a little bit better than these seats do. You also have like the log R, so you can like, it's like the track analytics that are built in.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. That's really cool.
Okay, so I don't know much about it, but it is like a software. When you take the car to the track, you can like track like lap times, and there's just more analytics than what this has. This doesn't have that log R to it.
Okay,
right?
That's really cool.
And then like the other big difference is with the exhaust, right? So this, all the dogs are out today. This one, when you change it into Sport Plus mode, you actually get some like pops and bangs from the exhaust that you don't get from the FL5.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a valve in the exhaust when you go from comfort to sport, and then it actually changes the timing slightly when you go to Sport Plus, and then you get some pops and bangs and some burbles.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, there's so much negative media about like pop and crackle tunes, right? But like, it's interesting to see that kind of get, I don't want to say adapted, but like, you know, somewhat optional in a Honda, right? Because like that stuff's been around, but in a Honda that's not necessarily marketed to kids.
Right.
Like, very interesting.
Right. It's like this is supposed to be the more refined version over the Type R, and then this gets the pops and bangs.
Yeah.
It's very interesting the way they decided to do that. I think those are like the major differences. The other thing, like with the aftermarket support, is the Type R just gets so much more support than this does. Like your drivetrain suspension, pretty much everything can just be taken from the FL5 and slapped on here. But you don't get things like splitters, body kits, right? That's the biggest downside for this. We are seeing support. Like Saibon has started coming out with like full replacement like hatches and stuff for this, which is cool.
That's cool.
And just like little bits here and there. So I think probably within like the next year or two, we'll see more aftermarket cosmetic bits for this.
Yeah, I've seen a few kits because I'm in one of the groups for the new one, and I've seen some kits. Now I don't know if they will work on the Type S. I think most of them are for the base.
Gotcha.
Because I mean, I'm sure like obviously your quarter panels are completely different, your front fenders are completely different. But yeah, I mean, it's just like anything. I feel like you need those break-in years. I mean, if they're that hard to, you can't even test drive. It's like, well, we have to find someone that owns one that will be willing to have us model stuff on it and whatever else.
So that was crazy when I saw that Criswell Acura Annapolis had like 2 of these in stock, and I went down and I went in just being like, okay, I just want to sit in it. I'm not going to drive it. And they're like, do you want to test drive it? They asked me, and I was like, are you going to let me test drive this thing tonight?
I'm allowed?
They're like, yeah. Like, you can't take the one that's on the showroom floor, but you can take the one that's outside. And I was like, okay. I was like, it was odd because all the other enthusiast vehicles, they wouldn't let you touch them essentially.
Yeah.
And this, they're like, no, like, here's the keys, like, go for it. And I was like, all right.
Well, and to me, it's like, sure, there's like that risk that you're going to have someone come blow up a car. But like, also, if you're doing your due diligence in only letting people drive it who are possible buyers, it's like, me as an enthusiast, if I have 50 grand to go spend on a sports car and I'm getting that experience too, where they're like, we want you to want the car, like that is, I mean, it's common sense to me. Like, how else am I going to be excited about a car if I'm showing up cash ready and it's like, they won't even let me like sit in it. it's like, well,
it's such a weird thing. Like, I'm not going to make that large of an investment to something I can't even fully experience.
Well, and additionally too, I'm sure it's the idea that it's like, okay, like this is, I mean, spare the NSX, the car, right, for the Honda Acura platform,
yes, absolutely,
the FL5 and the Type S, but it's like, you can go to a BMW dealership and go test drive 8 cars that are worth as much or more, right? And they're going to be like, check it out, like, go have fun, like, whatever. And it's like, okay, at the end of the day, it's still a Honda. Like, why are we treating it like it's something insane? Like,
yeah, it's something that's untouchable.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
unreachable.
I drove it. It was the dead of winter and like wasn't gripped up right. It was it was on summer tires in the dead of winter. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not gonna just kill this thing, but it just sold me instantly, and I was like, all right, I gotta have this. I came home that night and I talked to my wife, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. So then I was just looking everywhere, and I came across this one. It was up in New Jersey with 2,500 miles on it. And
in the correct color, I might add.
Yes.
The correct color.
I love this color. With the black interior, nothing wrong with the red. I just wanted the black interior.
Black is better. No, you made the right choice.
I like simplicity, keeping things clean.
Yep.
So
I say that as I sit next to a car on red wheels, but for the for the argument's sake, I agree.
Hey, red wheels are different than red interior too.
That's true.
So we drove like 3 hours, went and picked it up and drove it home, and then I've had it since. So, yeah.
When you were on that first test drive and you were like, I'm sold, what were your like immediate reactions and thoughts that kind of got you there? Or was it just like satisfaction being like, this is what I thought it was going to be?
Partially that. I had watched so many videos and so many reviews on both the FL5 and the DE5 that I felt like I had been in the car before, but it was just the notchiness of that gearbox. I was like, dang, this is so good. Just the power delivery was so nice all the way through. And then even with it cold, not having the tires warm, I could just feel how much grip the car had. And I was like, man, I got to like push this thing more. I got to own this and just experience this. Those are like the main selling points for me.
What are your plans for the car? Or is it going to be mostly just like leave it alone, which is also fine?
See, I get the itch after a while, and I always say that. And I have 2 cars on coilovers that probably can't see here, but I'm not going to go too crazy. It is my daily. I don't want to make it undrivable, right? But these things take well to bolt on mods, right? Like you can do like intake, like downpipe, all that stuff, and just get a little bit more power, a little bit more sound out of them. I do think it needs to be lowered slightly. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong. I mean, I am always going to be a proponent of the iBox kits. iBox's been around since for like 3 times my lifespan. So it's like, I think they figured it out. I had the Pro kit, I think, on my FA5 before I went to coilovers. And honestly, from a daily aspect, the springs with stock shocks, you can go Conies, but like iBox springs and stock shocks, you get like a 3/4 drop, and it drives like stock. It doesn't blow out the shock preemptively. Like it's just, and I miss driving it because it was like, I didn't have that same thought that I have in all my other cars now, which is like, okay, I have to think about the route I'm taking, like where are the bumps, that kind of thing. It's just like, you just go drive the fucking car. Like,
just drive it.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want it to become this thing where like, oh man, I got to think like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to do this? Because I have an extremely lowered car where I have to do that already. Mm-hmm. And it's got fiberglass aero, and it sucks because if you go too low, you're going to blow it apart. And it's just...
Shout out Perry. Our buddy he just did... actually, you'll probably meet him today for rollers, but he just did a full aero kit on his E46, and it's fiberglass. They shipped it from like Euro.
Okay.
And it's, side skirts, lips on all 4, rear bumper spats and everything. And he had it on for like 2 days and went over a railroad track and destroyed the front bumper. And so it was like, I mean, he's since like fixed it. And the nice thing was that now he knows how to fiberglass. So that's cool. But I mean, I do enjoy that like a lot of the new developments in like body kits seem to be leaning more towards that like urethane kind of material that will just bend and fold.
Yes, and not explode.
What sucks though is actually I think my side skirts might be urethane, but they're just really old, so they're brittle now. But it sucks that like they're more susceptible to heat.
Yep.
And the fitment's never going to be as good as fiberglass.
Yeah.
So drawbacks and pros and cons, but cool. I mean that's a great background. I guess I'll talk a little bit about this car because I honestly don't think I've talked about this car much. So I mean, this was actually my first car. I bought it from, actually, I'm still friends with the guy, my buddy Chris.
Nice.
He DJ'd my wedding. Nice. I was very much like, I wanted a hatchback. I grew up very much into cars. Like my dad our thing was like to watch NASCAR every weekend.
Okay.
So just kind of from a young age knew I was like really into cars. And I was really heavily into skating. And then when I was old enough to drive, I was like, oh, well, like, yeah, I forgot about cars. Cars are cool. And so I was kind of cross shopping, honestly. And I laugh about it now looking back, like how different things would have been. But I was like, Corrado, Integra, RSX, Mazda Speed 3, like all of those were kind of, and it was less about, I knew nothing about drivetrain. It was just like, I like the way that hot hatch cars look, right? So very quickly realized that like nice RSXs, Mazda Speed 3s, Corrados are all out of my budget.
Gotcha.
As a teenager, right? Like first car.
Yep.
So this car, I looked for months. This car popped up. My dad actually might have found the listing on Craigslist, and it was like, I don't know, 100,000 miles. It was a 4-speed auto. It's actually a really, I think the second rarest color they came in. Okay. All the gray except for the hood, which is wrapped, is like basically OEM paint. Nice. And they were like, it was an optional color. So you can only get it if you like ordered an Integra from the factory. And most of them are auto. So it was a 4-speed auto when I bought it. It has since been converted to a GSR 5-speed. So it's the LS non-VTEC B18 with the GSR, which is actually like, I mean, I did it out of necessity basically, but it really woke the car up. And because the auto has such a short power band and redline, like the motor was so healthy, even after 100,000 of like, basically, I think he was dailying it to work. That once we put the trans in and did the conversion, like GSR is such a short ratio that it's just like, it's the best mate for that motor. Nice. Like, and I mean, I have plans to K-swap it. I have a motor, which is the cheapest part of the K-swap.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
You can do in K20 or K24?
K24A2.
Okay.
I got my buddy sent me a listing for a JDM one in like Pennsylvania.
Nice.
Because they were like, you know, you can go get them from the yard. Actually, the yard over here, my buddy got one for like $700 and they pulled it for him.
Yeah.
And this one was $650, but it had really low miles. Supposedly, it had like 60K on it, and it was a JDM one. So I was like, yeah, I'll go buy it. But ideally, that's the goal. And I mean, I don't even want to talk about necessarily like the mods that I've done to it because it would be all day. We were laughing about this yesterday because we were talking about like, oh, like how much power does your car make and like how much have you paid for it? And it's like, well, I mean, it makes 150 wheel, maybe. I don't know. I've never dynoed it because it's stock ECU, full bolt on. And I don't even want to think about how much money I spent on the car because I mean, it has been over like, it's probably been like 10 years now. I'm sure my dad has a list somewhere of exactly how much money I've spent on this car.
Probably.
But yeah, it's fully basically just like a track toy now. It is still street legal. It's on street rod tags, finally.
So I have a question on that. What's the difference between street rod and historic?
So I can't give legal advice, but to my understanding,
for the record,
I'm on record. To my understanding, 20 years is historic. And all of this is perfect because this becomes a time capsule because all of this is about to go out the fucking window in like a month. They're destroying it. But right now, as of whatever it is, March 29th, 2025, historic is 20 years. So once you get into that threshold, it used to be that you had to get a final inspection and then you were approved for it. Okay. And now you just, if you turn 20 years or older, you go get historic tags.
Yep.
It means you can't daily it.
Yeah.
They mile cap you. Your insurance actually goes down because of that, which is nice.
Okay.
And it's primarily supposedly for cars that are unmodified or somewhat stock. And then they have the street rod provision, which is 25 or older.
Got it.
For like heavily modded cars. And the nice thing is that once you're street rod, I think you're exempt from, both of them are exempt from emissions. And street rod's exempt from like noise. Like you can have a loud car, I think, and you can have heavy modifications without like risking repair orders. And
Gotcha.
So, and it's nice because like this car fits that bill perfect,
absolutely.
And I don't feel like it's like a stretch. So it's nice. And God, I don't want to daily this car ever, dude. It would suck.
Not ideal.
But yeah, so that's kind of the story. And now it's nice to have a car that I can just go crazy with and, you know that like it's the back road / track car and it doesn't have to be practical. I mean, we're actually filming a video right now of I got huge front wheels for this car so these are 16 by 7.
Okay.
And the new ones are 17 by 9. So they're huge.
Yeah.
And they're big enough that I'm going to have to run a spacer to clear my like spindle and hub on the inside. So these over fenders are going to get taken off because they're just tacked on the ends and then siliconed. And then I actually found what I think might be the last pair of J's Racing OEM aftermarket flares.
Nice.
Some guy in, which shout out, thank you. Some guy in like Rochester, New York. I put it on, if you're not a part of NWP for Life Facebook group, they're a great group for like finding authentic parts.
Okay, I'll have to join that then.
It's a very OG group, lots of great parts in there. But yeah, I just made a post and I was like, I'm looking for replicas of these fenders. They don't exist. They were rare in the early 2000s. I know I'm not going to find one. And someone DM'd me. I was like, I have a pair. They've been in wrapping for 10 years. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah. Like,
I'm driving there now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, he's like, I'll ship them to you. And he shipped them to me for basically paid what they would have been worth in like 2004. So I'm eternally grateful, and they're going on this pile of garbage now. So a clean pair of J's Racing fender flares is going to die for this car, but that's okay. I need them. But yeah, so that's the story. And it's nice to, I mean, I'm so sentimentally attached to this car now, it's never going away. And the money doesn't matter, right? Because it's like, I am infinitely upside down in the car. It doesn't matter. It was my first car. It's like my soul now, so.
You can't think about the money. There's a certain point, it's your hobby, it's your passion, and like the money goes out the window. It's not financial advice.
For legal reasons.
Not a financial advisor. But yeah, there's a certain point you can't look at it as just a financial thing, or I'm doing this for like collector value. You got to do what you enjoy doing.
Yeah, and I think there is plenty of people that are like doing it. The flip is important to them. The money is important. And even with your car, like certain cars, it's like, that is an important thing to consider going into buying a car, modding it in a way that will be reversible if it needs to be, that kind of thing. And I mean, I still think about that. As stupid as my cars look, it's like most of the things I do, I am still thinking like, okay, if I had to at some point, like, can I reverse this? Or am I cutting the cord and drilling into my quarter panel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I also think that people limit themselves a lot with being like, oh, well, like I have to do the math and see if the ROI is there for me to do this mod. And it's like, dude, if it's going to make you happy, do it. We're here. We have, like, cars are like the most appreciated value in the world. Like you buy a car, and I mean, I got lucky with COVID because this car doubled in value during COVID. It doesn't matter to me. And that's the nice thing too, is it's like, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. But, so have you gotten to drive an FL5?
I have not. No.
I was curious to see like your driving impressions on those two since they're sister cars.
I need to do it. And what's crazy is one of my neighbors right down the street, he's a big Honda guy. He has an FL5, and I just haven't linked up with him to do it yet.
Oh, so we got to make that happen.
It is a little modified though, but I definitely want to drive his to get the comparison between the two.
Well, and one of our Patreon members, Jacob, actually just got an FL5 like a week ago.
Sweet.
Special ordered. And so he's out of state, but I'd still love to go kind of talk to him and get his opinion in that car. It's cool to me that at least Honda is still somewhat aware of their surroundings and still somewhat cognizant. Like there is a market for these like performance, we'll say economy cars for argument's sake, you know? Like I don't know what MPG it gets, but better than mine.
If I'm not driving like a complete dickhead, about 27 I've been averaging. Yeah. Now obviously if you're like taking it to redline every time, it's going to be a little bit different, but like I'm seeing about 27.
And that's mixed or highway?
Mixed. Okay. Mixed. Because my commute is the mail truck pass.
Dude, the mail truck's driven by like 4 times during this recording. Well, what's going on?
It's because the way the grid is in the neighborhood, they'll like come up one way and like down and through the other.
Okay.
This neighborhood's weird. No, it's mixed. So I'll take either highways or back roads into work. And like 27 was what I just like reset the trip meter at. Okay. And that was just commuting to and from work, stop and go traffic, some highway driving. So yeah.
Wow, that's good. I think so. The FA5 never got great gas mileage from factory. I think they were getting like 24, 25 highway.
Okay.
Which isn't awesome for the car. But after supercharging and dyno tune, I might see 18 highway. It's pretty bad.
But how much power are you pushing now too?
Like 370 wheel-ish.
Okay,
yeah.
so
which is honestly on the lower end for the kit, but it's just to keep it reliable for me.
Yeah,
biggest pulley kind of thing, and
yep.
That's on 93. I mean, it's got 1,000cc injectors, so it's like, what are you gonna do? Yeah. This thing actually gets great gas mileage, and we were talking about that this week too. Is I went from a white EG sedan with a mixed D series. It was like actually my buddy Paul sold it to me. So it was a local car that I had grown up seeing, and I was like, when I got the chance to buy it, I was like, I'm buying it. It threw a valve 2 days after I bought it. So that was cool, and I got to learn how to rebuild a head. Thanks, Zach. But yeah, other than that, it was like a D. So most people do the Z6 head and the Y8 block, I think. It might be the opposite way. And this car had the opposite. So it was really weird, and the timing didn't quite line up because the belt was off like half a tooth. So it was like natively like super advanced timing.
Yeah.
And so I had to retard it all the way to get it to be like the most advanced that it's safe. That being said, it drove fun. And when I was driving, I would go from Frederick, Maryland to Harrisburg, where I worked once a week. I would take that car. It was miserable. It was on the floor on 14s. But that car got, I swear to God, like 40 miles to the gallon with a 5-speed on pump gas, like 87.
I believe it. I feel like some of those old cars, there just be certain ones that would just got like miracle mileage.
Yes.
And you're like, what the heck? Like,
I don't understand it, but I've had a couple D series, and all of them have been like, you get in, I'm like, I can't remember the last time I got a full tank of gas. Like, it's top up here, top up there, and it's just like $20 a month, like crazy. And then now, I mean, this car I put mid-grade in because the timing is more advanced than I necessarily feel safe with.
Okay.
But I don't even know if it makes a difference because it's a stock ECU. Back then, like they had more variants. Like it's not like today where you put an air filter on your car and it throws a code.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit self-learning. But honestly, I'm kind of done touching the powertrain until it's like time for K-swap. That's what I'm saving towards. So, but yeah, cool. So I want to get your driving impressions in the car, and then vice versa, and we'll get some footage. But I really appreciate you showing the car, and we're gonna get some B-roll now of the car. So I'm sure I'll overlay that as we talk, and we'll go get some rollers and call it a day.
Should be cool.
Sweet.
Good.
Appreciate it. Oh.